after me. I don't give a...
Alrighty, guys, we're back to film part 3, the final little installment here. This is like 12 minutes long. So thanks for being here. Again, make sure you go check this guy's movie out called Fathead. We'll link it in the description of this video as well. Switch beverages. I guess I do have something processed besides protein powder, diet soda. Diet caffeine free, but it's 7-Up. Tastes limey. Anyway, so let's get back into this. Diet, health, and the wisdom of crowds.
Which sounds like the plan was good, but people didn't follow it correctly because they're stupid. Well, nowadays, when people go online and they realize just how many people have been following this advice and getting the same kind of lousy results, they come to the logical conclusion. I'm not fat and sick because I'm stupid. I'm not fat and sick because I'm not doing it right. I'm fat and sick because this advice sucks.
For real. You know, it's funny because I remember, I'm old. I remember in the 70s and 80s when Atkins was really big. And not that carbohydrates are the enemy. However, I know for me, and I know for a lot of people, when I dial back the carbohydrates and eat higher protein, lean protein, and vegetables, that when I eat lean protein, lots of veggies, and I avoid most carbohydrates, like if I stick to carbohydrates on like leg day, for example, just so I kind of like carb cycling, where you get some extra carbs so you can meet the demands of your workout. Or like, for example, my oldest daughter, she eats lower carb and the weight comes off of her easy. My husband's the same way. My youngest daughter, she loves carbohydrates and she does fine with them. And I do think everyone's different, but she also eats whole food. She does eat some processed stuff, but she's pretty good about prepping all of her own food, and she's a really great cook. She can cook just anything. From really amazing vegan food that doesn't taste vegan to, carnitas. So, but my point is that, yes, there is a way of eating that will work for you, but I think no matter what way of eating that is, it always comes back to eating whole food and not garbage.
So then they take the next logical step, which is to go find advice that actually works for them. And because of the internet, it's happening. And surveys are showing this over and over. More and more people these days get their diet and health advice from bloggers and podcasters and filmmakers and doctors and researchers they would have never heard of before. And of course, they're getting it through organizations like the Weston A. Price Foundation and the Nutrition Coalition. People are finding answers by watching YouTube. They are finding answers through people they follow on Twitter. Now, do these people all agree with each other? Do you all agree with each other? No. There are all these debates out there about low-carb diets, ketogenic diets, paleo diets, low-fat, high-fat diets, ketogenic diets, paleo diets, low-fat, high-fat, the all-meat diet, the all-potato diet, etc., etc.
So I know people are laughing when he said the all-potato diet, but there are a lot of people on YouTube have documented them doing the potato diet. And then, the magic show guys, Penn and Teller, the tall one, he did the potato diet, and he's like incredibly thin now and has maintained his weight. So like I said, there is something out there for everyone. Something will work for you.
And you know what? That's good. Because the diet that works for you might not be the diet that works for me.
Right.
And the diet that works for me when I'm 30 might not be the diet that... I had health problems in my 30s because I was getting older. Well, on Wednesday, I turned 60. I don't have those health problems anymore.
It's awesome. Okay, so I think I've mentioned this too before in a video. When this is probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was getting a massage and I passed out on the table. Not like fell asleep, passed out, but like got very dizzy and knocked out. And then it happened 2 more times. Went to my doctor and explained. Hi, Paulo. Went to my doctor and told her what was going on. I had a female doctor at the time. Not that it matters, but explained to her what was going on. And now, mind you, I was thin. I was wearing a size 2 or size 4 U.S. dress. I was not exercising. I was really dealing with my rheumatoid arthritis at the time and was extremely sedentary because the pain was so excruciating. And I was skinny fat, but I wasn't eating a lot because I was so sedentary. But what I was eating, I ate like cheese and crackers, toast with butter. So white bread or sourdough. Love sourdough bread. So she ran a bunch of blood tests on me and I had type 2 diabetes. And they put me on metformin twice a day. And then they gave me, this is the endocrinologist, told me to take an injection of Victoza and like 15 minutes before eating lunch. And when I tell you, that made me so sick. We could be at a restaurant. I could order my lunch. I could go in the bathroom, give myself the injection, and by the time my food came out, I'd be back in the bathroom vomiting. I went back to the endocrinologist and I explained to him my symptoms, and he said, well, let's just put you on insulin then. I think insulin will be better. And I just looked at him and I was like, you're out of your freaking mind. I know better. My sister and her son died from their type 1 diabetes. And, there's a lot of type 2 diabetes in my family and it's lifestyle related. But I was like, no, I'm not. I will go home and I started walking, and then I changed my diet. I started eating all whole food, and I just worked really hard to change my diet up, and I made sure I was drinking tons of water. And I went back to the endocrinologist and had my A1C checked, and it was normal again. And he said, wow, you actually did it. In 20 years of practice, I've never had someone actually say, I'm going to change this of diet and exercise and come back and actually do it. And I haven't needed medication since then. And I just had my A1C checked and it was like 5.1.
And I don't have those health problems because I went out into that big, messy, unregulated crowd. I got ideas, I did some experimenting, and I found something that works for me. But if the information still flowed like this, I'm not sure I would have found those answers. I know I never would have heard of the Weston A. Price Foundation. And that's what's great about how the internet has reignited the wisdom of crowds, because the information flows like this now. And that's how it should be. Because if you are dealing with a problem, it is better to get 100 answers from 100 different people than to get one answer from some supposed expert who happens to be wrong. Which is why it drives me nuts when I see stuff like this. The 2010 Dietary Guidelines for Americans will help policymakers, educators, clinicians, and others speak with one voice on nutrition and health. Really? We need one voice? So that one bad decision can affect everyone? No. We need thousands of voices. And the correct answers, the solutions, the one that actually work, will rise to the top. And that's why organizations like this one are so important. It's why you guys are important as individuals. And I suspect we have bloggers and podcasters in the audience. But you know what?
This makes me think of Ilona on Shakara Transformations and how Hater Nation has come for her and said, she's not a doctor, she's not a dietitian. Bleh. She's got years of experience, though. And there's something to be said for years of experience, and she has lived what she preaches. And that's what I'm trying to do, because if I can say, hey, I did this and it might work for you, and I can show you how I did it, you know, I'm not telling anybody to go pin themselves with trenbolone. You know, I'm not telling anybody to only eat the fat off your ribeye steak. Or, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there is something to be said for experience and wisdom in what you're talking about. I mean, it's great to have a degree too, but you get my point.
Even if you're not a blogger or a podcaster, you are contributing to the wisdom of crowds if all you do is go online and share your experiences with the traditional diet. That does make a difference, which is why it makes me happy when I get emails like this. I wanted you to know I've lost nearly 80 pounds since Fathead made me rethink everything I'd ever learned about food and nutrition. This was a woman who was following a low-fat vegetarian diet, kind of diet Walter Willett at Harvard thinks everyone should be on, and it wasn't working for her. So now she's on a diet of meats and eggs and other foods full of saturated fats that are going to kill her someday.
So I'm highly reactive to eggs and chicken, so I've had to cut those out of my diet. But like I said, red meat is a regular thing for me. And like I mentioned last time in the last video, my total cholesterol is 109, and my HDL and LDL cholesterols are right where they're supposed to be. So.
And clog her kitchen sink in the meantime. And she looks like that.
It's amazing.
When people see experiences like this, it inspires them. Do some experimenting, keep looking, find what works for them. And here's the fun part for me. The information doesn't just move like this now. It's also starting to move like this. Yes, the anointed are hearing back from the rest of us. Turns out they don't like it very much because we're not respecting the experts anymore. And I know they're paying attention because some years ago I wrote a blog post about this moronic study that claimed to find eggs are linked to diabetes. I asked, among other things, if eggs are causing diabetes, explain why diabetes was shooting up when egg consumption was going down. The researcher who produced that study actually felt compelled to show up on my blog and reply. His reply boiled down to, you have no right to question me because I'm a PhD and you're not.
Okay, see, that is dangerous. That's very dangerous in my opinion, when someone who claims to be an expert on something says, how dare you question me? I'm sorry, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how many degrees you have, there's always going to be someone who knows more than you do, and there should never be a problem with being asked a question challenging your findings, asking for clarification. That's very dangerous. I've had that experience actually with doctors before and walked out of offices.
Yeah, but I have the right to make fun of you because I'm a comedian and you're not. So. You want to start waving credentials around, buddy. And I, of course, don't have anything against PhDs. There are PhDs out there doing awesome research. We have heard from a bunch of them this week. And I have evidence that at least some of them begin life as normal people.
It could happen. That's great.
So there's hope for your children. But I'm pretty sure this PhD would agree that sitting in a classroom is not the only way to learn something useful, to have knowledge that's useful. And if it is, let's throw away everything ever invented by this guy, and this guy, and these guys. Here's another example of people talking back to the anointed now. A certified diabetes instructor wrote this article explaining that diabetics should be on a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet. Why? Because the USDA says so.
Oh my Lanta. So that is also incredibly dangerous. My sister, when she was alive, she kept her blood sugar in check so much better when she was eating high protein, low carb. And every other diabetic I know that's been the case too.
The site that published that article got slammed with comments like these. This is absurd and borderline dangerous, etc., etc. Now, a bunch of people told me they tried to leave comments, which never showed up.
Interesting.
The website explained that they were having technical difficulties. I'm thinking, as in technically, we didn't expect our expert to get slammed like this. But this happens all the time now, like last year when the American Heart Association came out with their Presidential Advisory Study, where they carefully examined the evidence and concluded, well, wouldn't you know it, we've been right all along. Saturated fat will kill you. Within 2 days, this thing was getting absolutely shredded all over the internet. And again, that happens all the time now. But the anointed have figured out how to deal with all this back talk. It looks like this. Yes, they would like us to shut up. Dietitians in New Jersey are trying to make it illegal to give dietary advice without a state-issued license. You guys remember Steve Cooksey? He's a blogger. He's also a diabetic. He got his diabetes under control by returning to this. Dietitians tried to shut him down because he was giving dietary advice and he didn't have credentials. Some of you may have heard of Dr. Gary Fettke in Australia. He's a surgeon. He became appalled at the number of amputations he was performing on diabetics. So he did some research. He started advocating for a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. So the dietitians complained, and the agency that regulates doctors told him he could not give dietary advice anymore.
And he's a doctor. So you guys know I'm finishing up getting my certified personal training certificate just for my own knowledge kind of thing. It's not, I'm never going to use it. It's just, I enjoy learning. And I knew this, and then it was pointed out that, our body, the only macro we don't need for survival is carbohydrates. Isn't that interesting?
Because he wasn't qualified. Now, he finally, just recently, got that decision reversed. And I'm sure you've heard of what happened to Dr. Tim Noakes in South Africa. A woman on Twitter asked him a question about feeding her toddler. He answered, and because he recommends a high-fat diet, dietitians complained, and the agency that regulates doctors brought him up on charges, which turned into a very long, expensive, grueling trial, which finally ended something like this. So, of course, being the anointed, they said, hey, we should do the same thing again, only bigger. So they filed an appeal and made him go through a second trial, which ended something like this. But, of course, this was never about Tim Noakes. This was about the anointed trying to silence and intimidate pretty much everyone who disagrees with them.
God.
They think they're going to take us back to the days when they hand down the advice and we just follow it. That is not going to happen. Because if I switch to a diet that looks like this and I lose weight, I feel great. My health improves. For the first time in my adult life, that is my experience now. And I'm not going to change my mind because the anointed tell me to. I'm not going to go back to a diet that doesn't work because the American Heart Association puts out some other, one more bogus study. The wisdom of crowds is going to keep getting stronger and stronger because we are not going to stop sharing our experiences with each other, and we're not going to shut up. And I'll give you just one more example of why I won't shut up.
That's one thing that's like such a great thing about the internet and how easily we can share information. I know it can also conversely be true and be a bad thing because people can say whatever they want. But I do think for the most part it's a good thing.
This was a woman who posted in the Fathead Facebook group. She'd been trying the low-fat diet her entire life. She was constantly miserable. She never really lost any weight until, as she writes, I started searching online for ideas. At that point, a perfect storm of coincidences happened. We were led to the oiling of America, which led to tons of documentaries on health and nutrition, which led to Fathead. My searches had already started me to watch my carbs, but Fathead put it all in place, that light bulb moment. In the past year, I have now lost almost 65 pounds.
Wow.
This Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for all the people, scientists, doctors, bloggers, everyday people who never gave up on getting the message out to people like me who were utterly despondent and desperate. If it weren't for this information, I would be a fat, unhealthy, unhappy mess. There are millions of people like her out there. Isn't that why we all do what we do?
Yes, for sure.
I think it is.
I just think it's really great that he's so passionate about this and he's been able to, get the information out to so many people, such a big platform. I mean, I know for me, and I think for a lot of people who talk about health and fitness on their channels, that for me, I wanted to be relatable to other middle-aged women. And I know I can look at pictures of family and friends, and a lot of times what happens with women is like they hit a certain age, maybe it's 30, 35, 40, where you can look and see where they've just given up. They've cut their hair off, they're not wearing their makeup anymore, they're wearing culottes and oversized. They've just kind of resigned themselves to, I'm going to be fat and I'm old and it's fine. But that's not really what they want. They just don't know how to get what they want. Or they feel like they're too old to get back in the gym, or they're too old to wear their hair long, or they're too old to wear a winged eyeliner or whatever. And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. And I love this kind of stuff because it does make us think more. It makes us question things. I think we should all question everything and do our own research. I mean, we have the world's information basically at our fingertips. There's no reason why we can't research everything for ourselves.
And so to sum up, I'm going to explain why the wisdom of crowds won't go away by telling an old joke. A couple of drunks are sitting in a bar watching TV, and the 6 o'clock news shows a guy standing on the ledge of a building. So the first drunk elbows the second, and he says, bet you $20 he jumps. Second drunk says, all right, I got $20, says he doesn't. Well, sure enough, guy jumps. Second drunk says, I'm an honest man, here's your 20. First drunk says, nah, I can't take your money. I've been drinking here all day. I seen him jump on the 4 o'clock news. I seen him jump on the 5 o'clock news. And the second drunk says, so did I, but I didn't think he'd do it again. The reason people are turning back to the wisdom of crowds is that for 40 years they have been told to make the same bad bet with their diets over and over and over, and they're tired of losing, and they are not going to do it again. Thank you very much.
That was awesome. That was really awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I think this guy is incredibly smart and brave to bring this all out, because I'm sure he's gotten backlash. Go watch his movie Fathead. It's a fun watch as well as informative. So thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Please repeat after me. I don't give a...